What's up, you friggin' nerds? Welcome to my 2025 downhill bike shootout presented by Outdoor Research with support from Sweet Protection and Windrock Bike Park. I'm here with my boy, Nick Doman. What are we working with here?
This is the Trek Session. It has an aluminum frame, 29-inch wheels front and rear, and a split pivot suspension system.
This bike has won at least a few world championships. We've been putting it through its paces out here at Windrock, and we'll send it back to the shop where we'll dive into this thing. All right, we're back at Norton Acres. We just finished up our last couple days of riding on the Trek Session. Looks like a session is a session. What is a session like in 2025?
I would say that it's just extremely generic. It looks like a session. It is a session.
But I think this video is gonna try and define what that means. For me, it's kind of a tough one because the feeling is kind of vague.
I would agree.
And a little mid. So it's like...
It has a mid pivot. That's not a high pivot. Yeah. It's a mid pivot.
So it's kind of hard to really dive in here or there and like break this thing down because it's hard to pinpoint a defining ride characteristic of this bike.
Other than incredibly average.
Yeah.
Like that's at least my take on it.
I think a good place to start is maybe the sizing.
Yeah.
This is an R2. Trek makes 3 sizes of this bike. And I think for anyone average height, it puts you in a weird place. It certainly did for us. And we chose to size down to the R2, which has a 465 reach in the low position, which makes it the smallest bike on our test.
Yeah.
But if we got the R3, the low position would be a 493, which would be the biggest bike on the test. And my rule of thumb has always been to size down. I think I could have maybe gotten away on the R3, but Nick is a little shorter. You're
like 5'11".
I'm 6'1", and with our experience, yeah, we thought this would be the best bet, but we did feel like it was slightly compromised on size. It's a little small, and the fact that this is in a 29er package made it a funny bike a little bit because it was small in a size sense, but it kind of rode bigger with the big wheels. So it was an interesting mix of ride characteristics.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just follow up with there's no way I could have ridden the R3. I would have had a miserable time, honestly. So we went with the compromise of, obviously, as Brian stated, the slightly smaller bike. The fact that it was the only full 29er on test, I think, was interesting. I found that it actually carried speed quite well and had good traction. It wasn't bad except for the one instance where there's like the Red Bull Ravine step down and I buzzed my ass on the rear tire and it scared me. Like that was, it's not comfortable and it's kind of scary and unencouraging to push on if you ever buzz your ass on a step down. It's not
going 30 miles an hour.
Honestly, aside from that, I found that it worked pretty well.
Yeah, it worked well. I think it was quite balanced. It did feel small for me.
Yeah, I mean, me too. Like this is like an enduro bike. It's weird. It's like a super long travel enduro bike.
Yeah, without getting too much into the other bikes on test, the wheelbases of those bikes and the proportions of the other bikes on test just made them kind of way more confidence inspiring to ride. But this does downhill bike, and it's not like I didn't have a bad time. It just wasn't the bike if I had a choice. It's not the one that's like making me excited to go ride it. You know, as far as like a balance between the two wheels, I felt like it had good cornering traction and good weight on the front wheel. It definitely wasn't getting away from me, so that was the positive, but then it definitely sacrificed some chassis stability.
Yeah, I would second that. Like I'd never had it do anything. Honestly, never did anything weird. In the presence of greatness, average is like, it's just average. So like there were bikes on the test that were really, really good. I mean, all of the other ones had pretty much a standout feature of, wow, this is really something quite special. And this kind of lacked that.
I feel like that the averageness is coming from a suspension standpoint mainly. I mean, the biggest thing I struggled with, I just had like a severe lack of feel. It was the lack of feeling that just had me like kind of guessing what the bike was doing. I just felt disconnected. It feels like it almost has a stiff platform, then kind of blows through. I really struggled to get this bike to be fluttery and just track in a way that had me connected to the rear tire.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Another interesting thing, at least with the rear suspension, is it has a progressive and linear setting. Tried both of them, and the progressive setting actually felt harsher. It was almost notchy feeling, as it didn't want to move smoothly, and then it didn't want to initiate smoothly, I guess would be the correct term. Is like off the top, it just had this almost resistance, and then it would start to move, and I do feel like it had a little bit better, say, bottom out resistance than what the linear has, whereas the linear just feels a lot smoother, but it doesn't have quite as much platform.
Yeah, it's even hard for me to describe the actual details of the differences in between the two settings, but I felt like the linear was better. It's hard for me to quantify why. That's to the degree of which I struggled to get feedback from this bike. It's hard for me to pinpoint exactly the feeling that was better, but the linear was better. And what's confusing to me is this thing has a really high starting leverage ratio.
Pretty high.
Other bikes that have similar numbers, those bikes feel really fluttery off the top and have great feel. And for whatever reason, I didn't get that out of this bike. I was trying to get that feel by quickening up the rebound and softening the shock, but it didn't accomplish that, but then it also made the bike buck. I just never accomplished that feel through the adjustments available with the bike.
Another thing, for being a high pivot, I don't feel like it deletes square edge bumps like others. Like you hit and it does go like past the bump. It doesn't kick like crazy, but it also does definitely put a healthy amount of feedback into your feet. I do think that another vagueness, at least that I experienced, was where the wheel is, kind of like, or where the bike is sitting in the travel is a little bit hard to feel. Other than the vagueness of where the wheel is, like it never did anything crazy.
Yeah. I feel like it didn't try to hurt me,
which is huge.
But it also didn't inspire me. I think the bike felt almost like the heaviest on test. But even from just like a suspension and ride feel, it feels a little lethargic.
What about braking? How'd you feel about it on the brakes?
Fairly neutral. I feel like maybe it pitched slightly forward. It definitely didn't feel like it was anchoring. Not nearly as much as some of the other bikes on the test. Anti-rise and braking performance is something we're really going to try and dive into. This bike didn't impress me. It didn't make me mad. Really
in a nutshell.
Yeah.
On the brakes, it neither squatted or stood up. And once again, it's kind of a strange thing because having some degree of input when braking, at least for me, helps make up my mind of what I'm going to do with, say, my body position as I'm braking. So when you don't have some sort of input, either rising or squatting, I was a little, I guess, confused at times of what to do.
Continuing like on the topic of a bit of vagueness, I would say that carries into the frame feel. Independent of the suspension, the bike feels very muted, but also kind of stiff. And I feel like that prevents the information from what the frame is doing, like getting to the rider. If I were to like tune the frame feel one way or another, I would definitely want it flexier.
I mean, we could fix that with a Sawzall.
Hey, get that bridge.
Chop the bridge out.
I'm sure Dak's got one hanging around.
Maybe it'll track better. I mean, not that it tracked poorly, but it has a large bridge down at the chainstay. The thing's huge.
I mean, the tubing on this bike is very thick.
Thick.
And the webs are thick. And that's kind of what it feels like. She feels a little thick.
So, I mean, I guess on another topic of this vehicle is it does have some weirdly standout good results at the World Cup level. At least, it has at least 2 men's world championships. I don't know if...
I mean, Valley was on it.
Valley probably won at least 1 or 2. Like, I don't know off the top of my head all these statistics, but I mean, it's one at a high level, so clearly people can figure it out and make it work. Obviously, there's a new one coming. It'll be interesting to see what direction they go with it. I would say my genuine one complaint of like, I don't like this about this bike is the seat. And the seat position it's kind of high. And once again, I go back to, it feels similar to an enduro bike. Like the seat just doesn't get out of the way. Like there's other bike on test that it's pretty much gone. It's awesome. You have a lot of room to work. And then the stock bars, they never made it here because they had to be removed because they're hideous. Like they're just,
we couldn't let you guys see them.
Yeah, just the stock seat too. It's like weirdly wide, and you would like catch your knees on it.
And it is so much higher than most of the other bikes. Like this is the only seat that is reminding me that it's there.
Yeah,
like fairly consistently. I mean, this is not an inexpensive bike.
No.
It's one of the more expensive bikes we have. It makes it just a little bit disappointing when it comes with kind of an afterthought saddle. Bars that are like a little questionable. I did ride them. They're super stiff. Just like the touch points feel a little, like the grips.
Unforgivable. Like AI designed grips.
So it just seems like when you're putting this money into a bike, at least I would expect as a customer, it would make a big difference for these tiny touch points to feel a little bit more quality, and this bike's kind of missing that. Plus, a side note, the crank hits the chain stay.
Yeah, we had to take the crank boot off because it literally, if you backpedal it or pedal forward, it's hitting on the chainstay protector.
Again, expensive bike to have
these kind of problems.
Yeah. I will say I actually like the silhouette and the paint job. But they went a little extra on the logos. We've got this big Trek Factory Racing logo. Are you on Trek Factory Racing?
Definitely not.
I'm not.
You know, I think that could go and it would help.
It makes me feel like a poser riding this bike.
For sure. You know, like I wouldn't put Star Yamaha graphics on a Yamaha that I'm riding because A, I'm not that fast, and B, that's just kind of weird. Like
honestly, if I was looking at this bike and I had 8 racks to throw at a downhill bike, that logo might make me feel a little uncomfortable. If I'm being honest. Because I ain't on Trek Factory Racing. Look, if I have this bike, does it mean I can pull up to a World Cup? So it looks sick. I get what they're kind of going for. But for me, that's not the look. I'm not trying to be a factory racer because I ain't.
I agree. I mean, maybe they could have a factory edition.
Yeah, see, you could do that.
And then
I feel like you could do that.
Yeah, like
and then it comes with
cut.
And then it comes with non-puncher parts.
Funny.
This is the move, dude. This is where the industry's going. You need a factory edition bike, limited edition, 100 frames, Trek Factory Racing. Put a paint job on it, limited edition.
Boom.
Money.
You're welcome.
Because there's a certain percentage of people that will pay for this logo.
And there's probably a lot of people that just do not care. There's that crowd too.
Yeah.
So,
but this is coming from 2 very opinionated, washed up downhill racers. So.
Enduro racer.
You raced a bit down.
A bit. Like 10 years ago.
Hey, washed up.
Washed up.
So anyway, that's a little rant for you. But I think we're done talking about this bike. Thanks, Outdoor Research, for supporting this whole project. Would not have been possible without them, or Sweet Protection, or Windrock Bike Park, who provided the awesome trails for us to test these bikes on. Also, Maxxis Tires for getting these Control DHR 2.5s for all the bikes. But yeah, that's about it. We'll catch you guys in the next video.
Factory edition.
I think that is a good way.
It just went too far into